how do you prepare for a guy like Deebo Samuel, a unique player? How do you game plan for a guy like that?
Who?
Deebo Samuel.
Who's that?
One of my takeaways from watching the NFL this year is the potential emergence of hybrid receiver running backs. There's been a focus on running backs catching the ball more for the past however many years, but I think we're also starting to see the reverse of that, with receivers running the ball more often. Of course, Deebo Samuel would be the perfect representative of that movement. Cordero Patterson has been doing it for a while and suddenly had a breakout year for the Falcons, so he certainly deserves credit for this as well. And now we're seeing even rookies like Rondale Moore shaping into this type of player. If the Jaguars can make things right, then a Travis Etienne, Laviska Shenault hybrid backfield with misdirection and space opening plays could really help develop Trevor Lawrence in combo with James Robinson as more of a power back. Unfortunately, it's the Jaguars, so let's not get our hopes up. Kadarius Toney is another player who should be getting mixed into the backfield more often next year. That guy showed some amazing flashes on a really bad Giants team. But in this video, we're putting the focus more on Deebo, because what he did this past year amazes me. He put up 1,400 receiving yards, a number that ranks top 5 in the NFL, only to pretty much convert to a part-time running back. He scored a rushing touchdown in 5 games in a row and broke the record for most rushing touchdowns in a season by a receiver with 8. And that doesn't even tell the whole story because his efficiency is something else. He averaged 18.2 yards per reception and 11.6 yards per target. And on the rushing side of things, he averaged 6.2 yards per attempt. All of that comes out to 13.2 yards per touch. Jaw-dropping stats. So yes, even though some receivers have mixed into the running game before, no one has ever been able to top what Deebo did this past year. It's honestly kind of funny to go through the 49ers touchdown log on the year and just see Deebo Samuel appear over and over again. And throughout the season, all in all, he was just a blast to watch. He's stronger than defensive backs and makes it tough for anyone to bring him down. When he has open space to work with, he eats up yards after the catch. He really has a special ability to avoid defenders and seek out optimal space in a defense. Kyle Shanahan does a good job keeping offenses off balance, using misdirection and operating Samuel in a variety of ways. It's the way he originally intended to use Jalen Hurd when he drafted him and Samuel back-to-back in the 2019 draft. Imagine going empty, then motioning to bring in a healthy Hurd in the backfield, and then running the ball on a dime defense, or faking it to Hurd and having Deebo run an end around. I guess you see what Shanahan and Lynch were dreaming of the night before the 2019 draft. Of course, we know it's too bad Hurd couldn't stay healthy, because originally the reports out of training camp that summer were that Hurd was the most dynamic player on that offense. 49ers skill players are starting to become like a positionless NBA. Everyone can play everywhere. You see it with Deebo, Ayuk, Kittle, Juszczyk. I mean, when your fullback catches way more balls than he carries, you know something's going on. And with the playoffs on the line, Shanahan puts his stock in Deebo's arm to get them a season-saving touchdown. This guy is really starting to break what it means to be a wide receiver in the NFL, because he's so much more than that. Another piece to this pie is Deebo opening up the field for other players like maybe no other player can in football. There's such a focus on a dynamic player who can dominate in so many different ways that the end result is a more efficient offense as a whole. Shanahan has said they'll use Deebo in different ways depending on the defense they're facing and what advantage it brings to the offense in any given week. All of this gives a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo an easier job to do, and that's the best thing you could hope for in a wide receiver. I know the 49ers made the playoffs, but I'm really excited to see this offense again next year if Kittle can stay healthy. I know there's always been questions on who the quarterback should be, but the weapons and scheme of this offense, well, they're pretty easy to fall in love with. And if the choice is Trey Lance in the future, then he's in a really good situation. I'd argue a better situation than any other quarterback in his rookie class. This video ain't about Trent Williams, but he's been godly this year and is another key piece to this puzzle. Also, while we're at it, might as well shout out Tom Compton for stepping in and immediately playing like one of the best run blockers in the league. Back to Deebo though, the one thing I'm worried about is the usage in the backfield causing more wear and tear on a player who would have a longer career exclusively as a receiver. There was one point this year where he was pretty much RB1 out of necessity while still acting as a leading receiver for the team. Overall though, the Niners have done a pretty good job limiting the carries on Deebo, because I'm sure it was tempting to dip as far as the double digits when your running back core was as decimated as it was with injuries. But they resisted that temptation and Deebo continued his electric play. It's honestly probably better to keep the carries in smaller doses because they work best as a throw off the defense type play anyway. Which reminds me, there's an argument the Panthers should actually lower the rushing usage of McCaffrey, which sounds kind of crazy, but if they were to deploy him like Deebo, they could get very similar results and have a longer lasting career to a player they already gave a lot of money to. Chuba Hubbard can be the more traditional back in that offense. I would just let McCaffrey go ahead and Deebo out next year. I was a bit disgusted at times when he was healthy this year at the Panthers' plan for him. I think Matt Rule needs to reevaluate some things there from at least what I saw. Anyway, other coaches are going to watch Niners film this offseason and start looking at guys they have with a similar skill set. I think we're going to see a lot more receivers taking carries in the backfield next year. And guys like Deebo and the recent success of Patterson are going to be the main reasons why. If this trend is able to withstand the test of time, then you could argue Deebo Samuel changed the NFL forever. Of course, he wasn't the first player to do it, but he may just be the one to popularize it in whatever the future of the league becomes. And I have to add that it's probably in his best interest to stay under Shanahan. He'll be a free agent in 2023, but there could be extension talks this offseason. The 49ers might want to get a deal done before Chris Godwin and Mike Williams hit the open market. Not to mention Devontae Adams most likely signing a record-setting deal and blowing up the receiver market as we know it. And for Deebo, if the rushing attempts are going to increase, it's always best to get that guaranteed money and a lot of it as quick as possible. So that's all we have for today, my friends. As always, be sure to subscribe for more content just like this.
What kind of problems does Deebo Samuel present for you guys?
Who's that? No.
Deebo Samuel's son can supposedly hold a baby bottle at 3 weeks old. Deebo is convinced he will be a top draft pick one day. According to Box Chat sources, Lane Kiffin already offered the little one a scholarship.
Let's go!